Hey, we have an upset alert and the streaking continues, Tony. Let's talk about it. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Trailside Dukes. Thanks for being here with us. We've got an upset alert. This it just happened. As we were getting started here, UConn has been upset by Creighton. Are you a Creighton fan?
Maybe.
Yeah. Everybody kind of likes to see the top dog go down every once in a while, it seems like. So
I'm a Zags fan, so you know what I mean.
Anything can happen. We're getting closer to March, so
Cougars are in there. Cougars are ranked.
Yeah, they just hit the top 25. I think they were 21, right?
Yeah.
Did they come in at 21? Yeah.
Yep,
And then
cool.
So you get to number 21 and then all of a sudden, boom, you have to go play down in Arizona. So
Yeah, that's going to be big.
That'll be a big game.
Yep.
So plenty of basketball to continue. I'm getting excited for March Madness now.
And local basketball. Coeur d'Alene.
Girls team.
Viking team wins state. Congratulations, Lady Vikes.
Pretty awesome.
That's
and
cool.
Who'd they play against?
Lake City.
Another North Idaho team.
In the state championship. Gosh, they could have just, load up the buses and
they could have played it here.
NIC.
Yeah,
it up.
Something like that. How cool is it? I always get excited about, the North Idaho high school teams being able to compete with those Boise programs and still be able to be successful like that. I think it is so cool that both those teams were, the top two.
For sure.
So awesome year for those girls.
Yeah, both teams. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Fun.
Okay, well, like I mentioned before, the streaking continues. You had a friend write in to us because we told everybody, hey, if you got a story to share, it could be streaking, it could be favorite overtime game that you've witnessed.
Yep.
You can write in. If you ever want to write in, we're still taking emails. You're going to want to email us at trailsidedukes@gmail.com.
Yeah, and follow us on social media.
Yeah, if you like what you're hearing, if you think it's funny, share it with your friends, your family. Maybe it's not always funny, but we've got some good life lessons every once in a while in here, like always wear a helmet, even if it's your third one that you've gone through. Different things like that.
Keep the rubber side down.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yep, it's not good on your bike when your wheels are up in the air, Corey.
Well, we've both had our wheels in the air.
Right. You can start singing
More
some
than
songs,
once.
right?
I think so. Oh, no. Don't do that.
I know, it's haunting for you.
Okay, so you had a friend write in, right?
Yep, Larry from Calgary, Alberta.
Okay, so Larry
he
wrote in and he wanted to talk about the infamous Calgary streaker, right? Have you heard of this guy?
So if you didn't catch our last episode, we talked about the stuff going on at the Super Bowl and stuff, and so we kind of put out there for our fans to write in some stuff if you have a crazy story that involves a streaker and stuff. So Larry wrote us in about this guy who 20 years ago at a Calgary Flames NHL game, thought it would be smart or funny or combination of both to streak at a hockey game. And that, the hockey game puts a whole different...
You asked me about this. Would I jump the glass? The glass.
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody in their right mind would try that.
Well, Calgary's a different place.
Apparently this guy did.
Let's find out about this guy, Corey.
So I'm going to read through this article that your buddy sent us, and then we'll comment as we go through it. It's pretty lengthy, but I'm going to try to get through it as quick as I can.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So this is a story that came out. A guy named Rob Small wrote it. I want to give him credit. This is actually just from this previous June. It's the infamous Saddle Dome streaker details time he interrupted the Calgary Flames game.
Oh,
How many times have you been in the Saddle Dome, do you think, Tony?
Oh, gosh. I've been in the Dome a lot for NHL, basketball, Olympic stuff.
All sorts of things.
Yep.
Okay. So it starts off, it was a night Calgary Flames fans will never forget. It's been over 20 years now since a well-lubricated college kid from Medicine Hat climbed over the glass at Calgary's Saddle Dome wearing nothing but a smile, a wristwatch, and a pair of red socks.
Oh, boy.
It was during the third period of a Flames-Bruins game on October 17th, 2002, that Tim Hurlbut stumbled his way into Flames history, landing on the ice with a thud and knocking himself out cold. Bang. In quote, you'd think the Flames trainer could help a brother out and give me a beach towel, says the good-natured Hurlbut, looking back on the occasion. But no, he brings out a face cloth to throw over it. It looked like a teepee on me.
Wow.
Hurlbut, at the time a 21-year-old Lethbridge Community College student in golf course management, recalls the infamous day with a laugh. He had been a lifelong Bruins fan, and as he was driving to school that day, he heard about a deal that seemed too good to resist. For just $35, you could get a bus ride to the Saddle Dome, tickets to the Bruins-Flames game that night, and a beer. That's a pretty good deal.
That's a good deal.
He's like, heck, I can't beat that. So I rolled over to the golf course where my friends were hanging out. They're all at the driving range, so I pull up and say, boys, we're going to the Calgary game to watch the Bruins. So him and his buddies hop on the party bus, and they get to the Saddle Dome. They're feeling no pain. They head to their seats, which are high up at the press level, as the price would indicate. And
they're in the nosebleeds.
They settle in for the game. Have you been up in the nosebleeds there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? And then towards the end of the first period, Hurlbut has a stroke of genius, in his mind at least. So we're sitting up in the nosebleeds, he says, and I see this guy with a halo, a broken neck halo, sitting down by the glass. I say, boys, I'll be right back. I'm going to sit in that guy's seat while he goes for a beer because that dude is going to take forever.
This tells us about this guy.
Yeah. Much to Hurlbut's surprise, he was able to walk right past security and watch an entire period of hockey from the front row seat. But of course, all good things come to an end, and after the period, the Flames ticket holder comes back and gives Hurlbut the boot. So as he's walking back up the aisle, he sees a couple of guys sitting next to some empty seats a few rows back. He asked if it would be okay to sit there, and the guy said sure, and even they buy him a beer.
Okay.
He gets some more beer.
Calgary, they're friendly.
Yeah. We were able to locate one of those guys who was so this is the guy writing the article. We were able to locate one of those guys who was portrayed as an accountant in subsequent news articles about the event. He was actually a businessman sitting in the corporate seats of a friend who was with him. He picks up the story here. Quote, about halfway through the third period, he, Hurlbut, turns to me and says, how much would you give me if I went over the boards naked? The businessman recalls. Still to this day, 20 years later, not wanting his name used. The optics of a couple middle-aged business types involved in a young kid potentially harming both his body and his reputation is still not something he wants to be associated with. I tell him I'd give him $100, and I turn to my buddy, and he says he'll also give him $100, not thinking that the kid would ever actually do it. Just having a fun chat at a hockey game. I mean, how would you even get onto the ice? That question was about to be answered.
Hurlbut.
And that's what I was thinking. Like when you asked me about,
Yeah, you got to climb over the boards.
Streaking, like that's the first thing, and I said it would be a hard fall. Like I would look like the octopus at Detroit Red Wings game.
Let's find out what happens to him.
So we said we'd give him $100 each, never thinking he would go over. And then literally in the next few seconds, I had his hat on my lap and my buddy had his T-shirt on his lap, says the accountant. As Hurlbut made his way down to ice level, he shed his pants, then his underwear, and soon he was wearing only a pair of red socks, which would prove to be his undoing. He manages to climb over the glass, but as he hits the ice, his feet go flying out from under him. He lands on his back with a thud and smacks his head onto the ice, knocking him out cold for several minutes.
Concussed.
So he's just laying there naked.
Naked
right?
on the ice.
Just laying there.
Oh, geez.
As his seatmate remembers it, people were cheering and enjoying the moment. Even some of the Flames and Bruins players could be seen laughing. But when Hurlbut was lying still on the ice, you could sense there was some concern in the building. Paramedics were on the ice by now attending to him, and when he was eventually being stretchered off, he was able to make a hand gesture to the crowd,
Cheered him
bringing
on.
another round of cheers
Cheered him on.
and a sense of relief. Hurlbut says that he recalls some things related to those fateful moments, while others he had pieced together from friends who were there, and then also the media reports. So he's trying to remember all this stuff.
Well, he got concussed. You don't remember stuff.
You're out laying naked with a with a washcloth over your unit.
Oh, boy. Okay.
He goes, I remember going over the glass, the penalty box guy coming at me, and the next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital. He says,
What a
it
night.
was a long night. He spent that night at the hospital and was discharged at 7 a.m. the next morning. He recalls having a massive headache. Quote, can't even put a sentence together. Got a concussion, don't know what to do. This is being the early days of cell phones. Communication was not what it is these days. Hurlbut hops in a cab, heads to the house of a friend who lives on the outskirts of Calgary, where he's able to get a couple of hours of sleep. He wakes up, realizes he has a few issues to deal with, not the least of which is to let his fiance know where he is and what happened to him. So he decides to take another cab back to the hospital. As fate would have it, one of his friends who was at the game with him just happened to pull up in a cab at the same time. So boom, they're both there trying to find out what happened and where he was. He says, quote, we just looked at each other and said,
Oh, boy.
heck of a night, wasn't it? It's a different word, but heck of a night. They managed to get to the bus station and got on a bus back to Medicine Hat. So he says, I'm sitting there with the world's worst hangover, and there's a guy sitting there reading a newspaper with me on the freaking front page. Hurlbut
That's me.
remembers. He's like, wow, there I am. And I'm smelling like death. You can't imagine how I smelled. Then you have to stop at every town on the way home on the Greyhound. So they're making all the stops. And
It's the rite of shame.
He just reeks, I guess. Hurlbut quickly became a media sensation. In today's terminology, he definitely went viral. His exposure was getting tons of exposure.
Yeah, it was.
And not only in the local papers. News outlets from the CBC to NBC to ESPN to the Bleacher Report, the Globe and Mail, and several other newspapers around the world were picking up stories on the red-socked streaker who knocked himself out cold at a Flames game.
Dude, I bet he was the butt of many jokes.
Oh, man. I bet there's some good Canadian jokes
For sure
out there, right? The Red Sox streaker.
Yep.
Sports Illustrated did a 2-page spread on him, no pun intended, and he was offered guest spots on The View and The Mike Bullard Show, which he declined at the suggestion of his lawyer. In quotes right here, big bold letters, I'm 100% glad I did it.
Right.
But there would be a price to pay for his antics. Once he smoothed things over with his fiancée, who has since become his wife, there would also be legal issues to deal with.
Forgiving woman.
Hurlbut said he was initially looking at the possibility of a 5-year sentence and a $10,000 fine for interfering with public property. Luckily for him, however, his dad knew a high-profile attorney who took the case pro bono and was able to get the charges reduced to public drunkenness. That's a pretty good swing.
Swing.
Says here he ended up being fined $2,500 and had to perform 35 hours of community service while also taking a course on the evils of alcohol abuse. On top of that, he also had to pay for the ambulance costs and took a good old-fashioned tongue lashing from Judge Cheryl Daniel. who failed to see the humor in the situation, telling Herbert he had made a pathetic spectacle of yourself, splayed naked on the ice for 6 minutes until you were covered. He's like, so he's laying there 6 minutes until, coverage arrived.
Splayed out.
You have hockey guys on the ice. Like, somebody can't just prop a glove over it or something. I
don't know.
Somebody help the man.
Yeah.
That's a long 6 minutes, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a short. I don't know. Never mind.
Hard to say.
No pun intended there.
Right.
Okay, so moving on here. Most importantly for Hurlbut, however, he avoided all criminal charges, so he has no record as a result of his moment of madness. In fact, quite the opposite. It's safe to say that the guy who ended up flat on his back naked at an NHL game has very much landed on his feet. It says here in quotes, "I'm a mortgage broker and I'm also a mortgage lender active in the finance industry," explains Hurlbut when asked what he's been up to for the past 20 plus years. "I'm also a developer. I'm building 3 homes in Medicine Hat right now. I'm refurbishing a $1.7 million downtown property.
Okay.
Creating 4 B&Bs. I'm refurbishing downtown Medicine Hat because everybody whines and complains about it. So I said, heck with y'all. I'm doing it myself."
Okay.
When asked why he decided to strip off and hop the glass that night, Hurlbut says the money would have been nice. The guy sitting next to Tim, who agreed to put up the cash, said he felt some guilt over what happened and later anonymously mailed Tim's mom $200 in cash.
Oh, they paid up.
They did.
I wanted to know that.
Yes.
Well, that's good.
But more than that, it was just how he liked to have fun back then. The 2 stories we've covered about streakers the past 2 weeks, they both gotten paid.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it pays well, but there's always a risk, right?
Yeah.
He says here, quote, "I just liked to streak," he explains. "I used to walk out of pubs naked all the time just for a joke."
You got to watch those Medicine Hatters. They've got,
Moving on with this quote, "When you're hung like me, you got to show it off," he adds with a laugh.
Oh, geez.
"It's what I did back in the day. I just liked to party. One of my favorites was to go into the bathroom at the bar and walk out naked. Can't do that stuff nowadays."
No, you can't.
Is that like a Canada thing?
I have no idea.
Are you sure you don't have an idea?
Wild and woolly stuff.
Wow.
Medicine Hat people do have, they're a little different.
Are they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you live in Medicine Hat.
I don't know. What it is to give us an idea down here in the States? What would you?
Southern Alberta, small town. There's not much to do. You know what I mean?
So what's a town that
creative.
if you were going to tell me it's a lot like this town, what's a town I would know? Do you think?
Boy, I mean, it's it's a decent sized city. I would guess 30, 40, 50,000, might even be more now. But yeah, I mean, little small town, there's not much to do. So I guess you get creative.
Okay. Says here, when asked if his infamy has ever caused any issues in his business dealings, he said that happened just once, but in general, it's been very good for business. And most people are delighted to find out he's the world famous Calgary streaker.
Okay.
He says, "I'm 100% glad I did it. So many good opportunities have come from what could have been something bad. I've had one person who got up and walked out because of who I was when we were discussing a mortgage. They asked if I was the Calgary streaker, and I said, yep. And they said, we can't work with you." He goes, "That was one of maybe 400 mortgages." He says people often ask him about that October night in 2002, and he has no problem telling the story. In fact, it led to one encounter he'll never forget. While at a wedding in Mexico a few years back, Tim, a big hockey fan, got word that Brooks Laich, Laich, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Brooks Laich?
Yep.
A former center with the Washington Capitals and Toronto Maple Leafs, would also be attending the wedding. Hurlbut was excited about the prospect of meeting a longtime NHL veteran, and he said he saw him, but before he could get a word out, Laich said, "Tim, heard all about you, and I've been looking forward to meeting you." When reflecting on all that went down back in the fateful in that fateful period, Hurlbut, now a dad of 2 kids of his own, says he only really has 2 regrets. He did not appreciate the way the media treated his mother at the time, with reporters calling her constantly for comments and a radio station live on air calling her at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
About her son's antics and his upcoming court case.
Oh, boy.
The other thing that bothered him is something most guys can relate to. There was an iconic photo that went out, picked up by media outlets throughout the world. It shows Hurlbut climbing over the glass wearing only his red socks. In the photo, the stanchion that joins the 2 pieces of plexiglass appears to be obscuring his manhood, which allowed the photo to be widely published. He says, now I'm not bragging, okay, but it's bigger than that slot that held that piece of glass together. It's bigger than an inch, he says, before mentioning that there may have been some tweaking going on in the darkroom. They photoshopped it so they could put it on the front page of the newspaper. At least that's what I heard. Despite his fears of being known as Tiny Tim, Hurlbut is able to look back on it all philosophically. Was it a bad situation? Yeah, but you can turn a bad situation into a good situation. Okay. Yeah, that's on you.
I guess that's his life philosophy.
That's his philosophy. We always ask people. Yeah.
That's his life
philosophy. What a story.
Yep.
The Calgary Streaker. The Red Sox.
They're out there.
Wow.
I know.
I wonder what the deal was with the Red Sox. I mean, you're a Bruins fan, but you're going to a Calgary game. I could understand if you're wearing Red Sox and you're a Calgary fan, right?
Yeah, he wasn't thinking ahead there.
Wow, so, what a story.
Corey, the bar is set for you at a Spokane Chiefs
set
game.
For a lot of people.
I think you could do it.
You think it's just me?
I think you could do it.
No way. I mean, I don't know. Even if you're barefoot, I just feel like that drop, you're going to slip. Come out. Yep. It's just going to happen because of the, just that force. And
you got to land more like Spider-Man on all fours.
Any way you land, it's going to hurt. Yeah. It's going to hurt. Well, so maybe you go out there instead of Red Sox.
Put
maybe
a helmet on.
Helmet, elbow pads, knee pads.
See?
Something like that. Maybe you look like you like one of those roller derby kind of people without anything on your feet.
Yes.
And you just...
I think you got this.
That'd be kind of funny, actually, if it was a person in a helmet with some pads.
Chiefs helmet on.
Wow.
I got a Chiefs stick over there.
Very, very thankful that your friend wrote in and shared this story with us. Yep. I had no idea, and I read this morning, and I was just laughing.
Yeah, we gotta maybe we gotta send this guy a Dukes T-shirt or something.
So awesome, some merch. Yeah, I think we should.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let's move on. We've got a cool friend joining us today. It's been a little while since we've had a cool friend on the show. Should we have cool friends?
I think we should.
We are here with our special cool friend. We have Daniel Shepard. Tell us a little bit about Daniel Shepard, Tony.
Dude, I've gotten to know Daniel since Jack started at Carroll, and just following in him and his writing on athletes, not just football, but anything Carroll, that article we read, stuff on Cookie, that just shows you Daniel's a superstar, and we're super glad to have him on the show. Hey, Daniel, how you doing?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for the kind words and for having me on.
For sure, man. No, I'm a big fan. So, Daniel, let's get to know you, man. Where'd you grow up?
All right. I grew up in Burnsville, North Carolina, about 2,000 miles from Helena, east.
Just a little jaunt.
Yeah, not too far.
Okay, so did you go all the way through, elementary, middle school, high school there?
Yeah, so I was born and raised up until, graduated high school, and then I moved to college, obviously, in Greenville, North Carolina, which is about 6 hours east from where I grew up toward the coast, and spent 2 years at East Carolina. I went 2 years to a community college and then finished 2 years at East Carolina. And
Nice.
COVID kind of happened, and right when right when I was trying to graduate my last couple semesters, and I was fortunate enough to find this job, and here I am.
You never know what road life's going to take you on.
That's right.
East Carolina. Isn't East Carolina, aren't they the Pirates? Is that right?
They are. Yep, they are.
Wow. Nice work, Corey.
I know some of my East Coast schools.
Nice.
I thought it was the Pirates.
Similar colors to Carroll, actually, purple and gold, and
Yep.
they're the Pirates. More of a baseball school than football right now, and they've made it to a few bowl games the last couple of years. But cool experience. First time I'd lived away from home, moving off to college, and obviously now I'm got used to it. But certainly a transition in life, but it was good, fun.
So what took you to Montana from over there?
Well, you know, I knew I'd be graduating college soon. Kind of started the job search. I was going to set to graduate in December of 2020. Just looking for jobs one day, and this job popped up. I actually applied. The job opening was for a position in Butte. Applied and got a hold of my boss, Jeff Welch is his name. He told me the position was filled in Butte, but they had an opening in Helena. And my parents thought it was a joke at first, that I was going to be moving all the way to Montana.
Right.
But thankfully they called me back and wanted me for the position. And my dad said, "Well, we'll throw all your stuff in the back of my truck and go cross country if you want to." So that's what we did.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Daniel, I want to back up even a little further, right? So, I mean, you're a sports writer, and I want to talk about all the different roles because, you've got a few of them. But, like, growing up and, did you play sports? What sports? How did you kind of start going into, sports journalism?
Yeah, so I played basketball in high school. Wasn't really good. I got a late start on basketball. My true passion was baseball growing up. Played it from the time I was old enough to walk till sixth grade, and I got hit in the face with a baseball before a game. Gave me a little bit of a concussion. Didn't break any bones or anything, but it was enough to scare me away from getting in the batter's box ever again.
Yeah.
So transitioned to basketball in high school and played a couple years. Summer of my sophomore year, going into junior year, I tore my ACL in my knee. Had surgery. Fine to walk and all that kind of stuff again, but kicked me out of playing basketball. So right around that time, I was just going to school, starting community college just to get a degree on the cheap a little bit, and just I don't necessarily remember how I first got into sports writing. I think I was just kind of scrolling the internet one day and found a blog that talked about sports and baseball in particular, and um, kind of inquired, I guess, through an email and kind of got hooked onto them. I don't know if you guys know what WordPress is, but it's a
Hmm.
website kind of hosting platform and just a simple blog. I mean, nobody probably ever read that stuff, but I had fun doing it, writing about baseball, and kind of worked my way up to a few different sites. The Cubs were my team growing up, so finally got hooked onto a couple fan sites writing about baseball and really enjoyed that. I thought I was going to go to school for business. Took a gap year. Really, I was working at a retail store at the time, and maybe thought that I was just going to kind of work there and work my way up, get a business degree, and go that route. But kind of really learned to hate that job, and knew I was kind of riding on the side. Said, you know what, I'll just go do this sports journalism thing. And 2 years later, working for the school newspaper, and told you about how I found the job in Montana. So it all just kind of worked out. You guys mentioned life has a funny way of working out, but it really did, and I think I'm where I'm supposed to be.
That's awesome, Daniel.
So what do you enjoy right now there in Helena? Do you enjoy, the college stuff, the high school stuff? Are they equally enjoyable, or what kind of what pops out to you? What's like one of your favorite, things to go do when it comes to covering the sports there?
I'm a little bit partial to Legion baseball in the summertime.
Sure.
Obviously football's great. I get to go around to Carroll home games, even Western, and we get down to Butte sometimes for Tech games. That's always great. The atmosphere is awesome. But my true kind of, I guess, passion or what I really like to do is go to baseball games, and we've got a really good American Legion baseball team here in Helena. They've won the state title 2 of the last 3 years. So I guess if I had to, really kind of pin it on one thing, it'd probably be Legion baseball for me.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Have you been to the ballpark in Whitefish?
Oh,
I don't think so. No.
Oh my gosh. So, just as you talk about Legion, because, Jake Brown was a big baseball player and, we're pretty tight with their family and their son going through. And, I'm a baseball fan as well, but I don't know. We ended up in Whitefish last summer. Daniel, when you go to like just different ballparks, each ballpark just has its
Mhm.
own feel and cool stuff. You must have that too, just being a baseball fan. I'm curious about like talking about some of the venues and even at this point we can always jump back into Legion and Helena and the sports in Helena, but like being a baseball fan, what have been some of the cool places you've gone to?
Oh man, I mean, even before I moved out to Montana, I've been to Wrigley Field, in
Nice.
Chicago.
Nice.
I've been to the old Turner Field in Atlanta.
oh,
Before the Braves moved to SunTrust Park. I've actually been to SunTrust Park as well, but yeah, I mean, it really probably doesn't get any better than Wrigley Field. That was an awesome experience. But kind of in Montana, I've been to the Maverick Stadium in Missoula and really the Centene Stadium in Great Falls where the Voyagers play. And even here in Helena, it's where the Helena Brewers used to play, and learning about all the players who kind of worked their way up and made it to the majors, Ryan Sandberg, guys like that. They have their kind of their banners hanging on the outside of the stadium here in Helena of guys who've played in the stadium and been to the majors. So just kind of learning about the history and you don't think Montana has a great baseball history just where it's geographically located, and then you move out here and you learn about kind of Cecil Fielder and the Copper Kings in Butte a little bit, and some guys
Oh
who've
yeah.
yeah.
been through Helena and all that kind of good stuff. So that's kind of what I enjoy about here in Helena is just learning the history and seeing these old stadiums. Helena's an old wood stadium, so just kind of learning the history and that kind of stuff.
Well,
It's
let me
awesome.
ask you this, because it just popped into my head. Uh, Tell us what you think of the Savannah Bananas and that whole thing.
That's awesome. I just wish I had went to some of those games when I was on the East Coast, but I mean some of the stuff they do and you just see highlight clips and whatever. I mean that's really cool, and not they kind of had to find a way to pack stadiums and kind of make money that way and get draw in crowds and stuff. And I think they've done a great job with it. But it looks really cool, and I'd like to go to a game sometime.
Oh
Dude, you're
man,
gonna have to
it's
explain because I'm gonna tell you I don't know anything about the Savannah Bananas.
well, see, that's the problem with Tony. He's Canadian and he thinks baseball is the Toronto Blue Jays. So
For
he
sure.
doesn't really know baseball. But yeah, so Savannah Bananas, kind of, I don't know what to call it, Daniel. To me, it's almost like a Harlem Globetrotters
Oh,
of baseball
I've seen
kind
a
of thing.
story on this. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they just,
that's
and honestly, the stuff they do is incredible. Like to mix in the game of baseball with the stuff they do, to me, it's like, how would you even do that? I mean, to me, it's like a major production. You have to
We'll do
remember
with a
all these
hardball.
things and then still play great
Is it
baseball.
hardball or softball?
It's regular
It's hardball.
baseball.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
and they get like ex big leaguers and stuff to come to some games and play in those games. So I thought that's pretty cool.
Oh,
That's
I
awesome.
didn't know that.
That's
They do
awesome.
cameos or appearances, huh?
Yeah, I can't think of anybody right off, but I mean I've seen a handful of ex big leaguers who've done that for sure.
Well,
I
it's an
think they
incredible
had
incredible
they had
system.
one pitcher they had one pitcher pitch with his Gold Glove that he had won playing in the big leagues and all that kind of stuff.
That's funny.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we can do Savannah Bananas. Why not? Daniel, like you've been to Cubs games. You're a Cubs fan. Like, but whether it's Cubs or sporting event, is there a particular game, something happened that sticks out?
Ooh.
Were you there when the Cubs won the World Series?
Ooh.
No. I wish I was. I was watching from my couch in North Carolina when they won the World
Right,
Series.
right.
But
Well,
no, I can't think of anything. I was at Cubs Braves game one time, and I think there was like a ninth inning rally or something like that, and just kind of the atmosphere in that stadium. They're doing the whole chop thing that they do to kind of intimidate the other team. That was pretty cool. I remember that pretty vividly.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything specific. I grew up an hour away from a single A team, the Asheville Tourists. They were the single A team for the Rockies for a while, and got to see some pretty cool stuff there of guys who are now in the majors. Brendan Rodgers, he played for the Rockies, made it to the majors a couple years ago. Saw him hit numerous home runs. I think a guy broke a doubles record one year. I was there, but just kind of stuff like that sticks out in my mind.
Nice. Daniel, I've never really noticed you have an accent, but when you say majors, you got your accent kind of sticks out. Huh.
Yeah, I always make the joke is I don't have an accent. Everybody else has an accent, but
Right,
Right,
because that's
right.
how it sounds to
right.
me. But
Especially out west, all those Montanans, right?
yeah,
For sure. Um,
yep.
is there anything since you've been in Helena, sports story that sticks out?
Um, kind of, I guess, sticking with the theme of baseball, I did a story on a guy here in Helena. He's actually an umpire in the kind of American Legion scene. He uh,
In the big
was
leagues, right?
umpiring a game. Oh, he was, yeah, like I said, he was an umpire here in Helena, um, umpiring an American Legion game. He got hit with a foul ball right in his mask, gave him a little bit of a concussion, but he was kind of recovering from that and still felt bad, felt worse than he felt like he should have. Went to the hospital and found out that he actually had a tumor in his head that the ball had kind of broke loose a little bit, and it was giving him some problems. And he otherwise wouldn't have found it if he hadn't been hit with that foul
Wow.
ball. And he's since had the
Wow.
tumor removed, and he's gone back to umpiring. So I did that story probably a couple years ago now, but um, you know, talking about baseball having a bigger impact on somebody's life, that's kind of a glaring case for that guy.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. What
That
an
is cool.
awesome story.
I need to hit you with some
Yeah.
baseballs in the head, Corey.
We'll probably find stuff that we don't know about, I guess, huh?
You would jar a few things loose. Okay, well, you know what? Like, I'm gonna get selfish, Daniel, and you kind of get to know the Carroll teams pretty intimately and football. I always love seeing you. And anything like player story and something that sticks out or some observation about this football team, because you've seen it like I have, just for the last 3 years.
Talking about Carroll now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talk about tradition and kind of the winning tradition. I remember, um, going with them to Idaho. I guess what 2 years ago now or last year, and they won the conference title, and it always seems like they were making plays when they needed to in those situations. But when they started 6-0 this year, just kind of the way they did that was really fun. I mean, you had the St. Thomas game where they came back in a big way. You had the Rocky game where they came back in a big way. But just kind of that I don't know, kind of feeling of something's going to happen here, exciting, and they're going to make plays to try to get back in a game. And obviously, the season didn't end the way they wanted to. But I've got to know some of those guys, and you know I think that they can maybe try to figure out a way to not let that happen next year and finish the season strong. But yeah, that kind of be what my thoughts are.
Yeah, that's cool, Daniel. I mean, I think, just getting to know all the parents, like it was building in such a way, it was like everybody's like, this is
Right.
special. This is special. And then, yeah, injuries, whatever, gosh, they were a handful of plays away from, moving on, and who knows what would have happened in the playoffs, but there's always
For
next year,
sure.
I guess.
They
Yeah.
kind of really ran into a tough schedule too. I think
Yeah.
Coach Fanny was talking about. They played 5 or 6 nationally ranked teams and 3 teams that ended up making the national playoffs. So
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
tough schedule, and like you said, they were right there in the mix. The whole season, and just a couple plays bounce one way or the other, and it's maybe totally different outcome.
Yep. Totally. Anything basketball sticking out? That story you did on Cookie was awesome. They're fighting in there, and then you've got the women's team that's, really kicking butt.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see the men's team. The expectations, at least kind of on the outside, were maybe not as high as in seasons past. Just because new coach, a couple new players, they struggled
Right.
last year, went up 500. So to see them find kind of their rhythm, find their chemistry, find their identity, and I think they've won like 12 of the last 15 or something like that after starting 4-7. That's
Right.
really been fun to see. And Andrew, Andrew Cook's obviously having a great season, Frontier Player of the Year caliber season, All American caliber season. And then the women. I mean, the women are just perennial powers in the NAI. And Jamie Pickens is probably one of the top 10 or 15 best players in the NAI in the country.
Yeah.
19 double doubles this year, All American caliber season. But yeah, it's just been really fun. They're the only team that has both its men and women's basketball team in the Frontier as a top 2 seed going into this tournament. So just been really cool to see their growth throughout the season, where teams come from beginning to the end of the season. And postseason basketball is always fun because there's more at stake. So um, several kind of high intensity games to go, and should be fun.
What's your funniest story? Just in sports, anything that you've kind of like seen, or just what would you say is something that sticks out for you as like your funniest story?
Oh man. Um,
Have you seen any streakers?
I've not actually heard you guys talking about that last week or
Right.
whenever that was. No, I've not. Gosh, I don't know. Something that kind of always intrigues me is the stuff you hear people shout from the stands at like referees or something. And I know that those referees probably don't appreciate that, but sometimes the like creativity with the way people like trash talk, but not in a way that would get them thrown out of a game.
Right.
I kind of always find that funny. But as far as like a story or something goes, I really don't have anything. But um,
No worries. No
creative
worries.
trash creative trash talk in my mind, and coaches are the same way. They get
Yeah.
animated during the game, and they may stomp their foot or whatever, and so they're trying not to cuss or say anything vulgar, and some of the things that I've heard are some coaches say to not disrespect an official or something, or I've found amusing sometimes.
Right. Right. Huh.
Go ahead.
No, I think that's good. I think we're up to you.
Yeah. So, any life philosophy that you like to live by, or any kind of omen that you've always said like this is it. This is I really like this, and I'm gonna incorporate this in my own life.
Well, it's kind of maybe a life philosophy, like you mentioned, more so than a quote. But I mean, my mom always told me to treat people how you want to be treated, and we're in a business where we talk to a lot of people and build relationships. And I think about that a lot. Kind of treat people the way you want to be treated, and with respect and dignity. And until somebody maybe talks bad to you, maybe just kind of treat people the way you want to be treated. So that's kind of the way you expect to be treated. So with respect and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what I've always tried to do, and kind of live by that.
I love that, Daniel.
Awesome.
That's really cool. Hey, and I thought of one other thing. Daniel, would you give a little plug just for yourself? Like, you talked about you're on another podcast. I know that so there's some connection with, are you like, you work for 406, you write, all those articles. Can you help explain all that stuff and just giving a plug for yourself?
Sure. So I write for the Helena Independent Record, which is the newspaper, obviously, here in Helena. But 406 Sports, 406mtsports.com is a conglomeration. There's 5 Lee Enterprise owned newspapers in Montana. 406 Sports is just a sports based site where it pulls in all of those articles from all the sports reporters from those newspapers. So you've got Bozeman, Billings, Missoula, Helena, Butte. I'm sure I'm missing some, Raleigh and Hamilton. It's just a sports, kind of a statewide sports site for Lee Enterprises, if that makes sense.
Yep, I get it. And then you're on another.
So we're all.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, we're all newspaper writers at our own individual newspapers, but we also when it comes state tournament time, and we're all pitching in coverage, and we can all use each other's content and that kind of stuff. So it's just a way for us to kind of pool our resources.
Yeah, that's smart by the league group for sure. What else do you do, Daniel?
Well, I like you mentioned, you got some podcasts. I'm on a Hell in a Good Sports Show. That's Stuart Davis. He's a radio host here in town. And Conlon Burke, I don't know if you know him. He's the Carroll SID there, marketing guy as well. But
yep,
yeah, that's kind of it for me.
Okay.
What was that? Sorry.
Oh, nothing. I'm just joking around.
He said he was a Blue Jay fan.
Okay. Well, Conlon is, yeah. I almost ended up a Blue Jays fan. Actually, I was watching my first ever baseball game. I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. It was, I think, Cubs and Blue Jays, kind of, I guess, interleague a little bit there. But I remember saying to myself, watching the TV, whoever wins this game, I'm going to root for as a fan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, baby.
So thankfully, the Cubs won. Yes, wow. I did look out.
Well, we're close.
Unfortunately,
Daniel.
Nobody told me it was going to be a decade of suffering watching a 100-loss team until they finally won a World Series. But I had a shorter wait than most Cubs fans. So
yeah,
that's true.
Yep, they won the big one.
Yeah, I got one question for you guys, if you don't mind.
No. Okay, here we go.
What's the background story with the Dan Marino statue? The figurine.
We're both Dan Marino fans. I have my reasons, and Tony has his, but I'll let Tony go first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in my 50s, Daniel. So when I was like a, middle school kid playing organized football, Dan was the man. And growing up in Canada, I didn't have a regional team or anything. And Dan was, I was a quarterback. So I fell in love with Dan Marino.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
For me, cool. I'm a lot younger than Tony, so my dad was actually a Dolphins fan. He grew up in the Hollywood area, so he actually grew up with the Rams when he was younger. But when he had the TV on, he was always seemed to be watching Miami, and
they were good.
Yeah, he told me to watch, and I kind of. That was my earliest memories were watching, the Dolphins and watching Dan Marino throw bombs to these wideouts, Duper and Clayton just going, just doing go routes. And so it was fun to watch as a little kid. I was like, man, this is kind of cool. There goes that guy, and he's just throwing bombs, and these guys are catching them. So that's the beginning for me, and I've been a Dolphins fan ever since. So
Okay.
I feel like I'm in that Cubs kind of thing, and hopefully they can win the big one soon while I'm still alive.
They're
Yeah.
good.
So you mentioned the Rams. Does the name Ricky Prohl? Do you
Yeah.
remember? Do you
Oh
know
yeah,
his name at all?
yeah.
So his son Blake played at East Carolina when I was there.
Okay,
Cool.
there
Yeah.
we go. Some connection.
Yep, that's super cool.
And my,
Awesome.
my dad my dad was born in Florida. He'd always tell me stories of watching Larry Zonka and some of those guys,
Yep.
play on TV. So
What
yeah,
an
just
what an era of NFL football. Seriously, like that whole era of just, the late 60s and the 70s and just the guys that came through just I mean,
Dude, Larry
just
Zonka,
amazing.
run
Oh
right
my
through you.
gosh.
Tough.
Give me
yeah,
4 bars on my helmet and that's all I need.
that's exactly right.
Super fun.
Awesome.
Hey, Daniel, who's your NFL team?
I grew up a Colts fan.
Okay.
I don't I don't really have I don't follow a team as a fan right now, but I grew up a Colts fan. Kind of the tail end of the Peyton Manning era into the Andrew Luck era.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, that
my
was a
team.
fun era for them, for sure.
And Gardner Minshew, who is the backup for Indy this year once Anthony Richardson got hurt, also an East Carolina alum. So
Yeah, that's a super cool story. Yeah, he was big around here with Washington State.
yep, yep.
Fun, Daniel. Well, hey man, thanks again. Appreciate the heck out of you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and it's been awesome to get to know you, Tony, and follow Jack in his career. It's kind of wild that it's almost over going into a senior season, so
Don't
it's
make me
went by in a
cry,
flash.
Daniel. I know. Yep, senior year. Here we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, thank you. I know a lot of those guys, Jack included, speak highly of you, and I think your life philosophy just kind of plays out just with how you treat other humans, and you've got a lot of respect, my friend.
yeah, I certainly appreciate it, and thanks guys for the kind words and for having me on tonight.
All right, so that was really cool of Daniel to stop by and chat with us for a little while. What a cool story and just the journey. You never know like where things will take you.
Good dude. Good dude. Yep.
That's what we've got today. Do you have anything else you want to share, Tony?
No, great show. That was fun.
So remember, if you like what you're hearing, share it with your friends, like and subscribe. If you want to grab some merch, check out in the description area. We have a couple of links to our shop there. And you can get some Trailside Dukes merch to wear, or you can have stickers, decals, whatever you want.
Yeah,
right?
baby.
Carry them out there on the ice with you when you go streaking.
If you're a Carol fan, we've got a shirt that has like the Carol
Ooh, the
Corner
Carol Corner
emblem
shirt.
in there. Yeah,
I
fun.
like it.
I know.
All right. Well, until next time, keep your sticks on the ice.
Wow.